Hello everyone, it's Ego. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be starting off a brand new guide series, the Rogue versus Class Guide. This has been highly requested by a lot of my viewers, so I decided to jump right into it and we'll get going on this brand new series, starting off today with the Mage. Now, if you like the video, like it. If you dislike it, that's okay too. Be sure to subscribe down below to the channel. A lot of you who watch my videos are not subscribed, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. It's absolutely free to do so, and it really does help out the channel. So without further ado, let's jump into some general tips to deal with a Mage as a Rogue. Let's get into it. Now, as with all Rogue versus Class guides, let's go over what we will cover. So we're going to cover a summary of the class from a Rogue's perspective. We're going to see how much of a threat they are, what are some of the best counters to use against the class, and what should you watch out for when dealing with this particular class. Mages compared to other classes are one of the easiest to deal with as a rogue. With their cloth armor, they're not very tanky and they're easy to actually burst down, especially when you are a subtlety rogue using ambush. However, do not underestimate this class. They are able to burst you down at a moment's notice, so you always need to be on your toes when fighting a mage. Mages, regardless of their spec, have a lot of defensive abilities that they can use during a fight, so it's important that you utilize your abilities to counter those, which we will dive into later. So how much of a threat are mages really when it comes to rogue v mage? The answer to that, according to me, is quite simple. They're not much of a threat. Now, this is granted that you can utilize your abilities properly to counter them. Though they won't be as much of a threat as, for example, a warrior, mages can still burst you down rather quickly, like I mentioned before. So, they can be a threat, especially when it's a good player on the other end of the keyboard. If you're playing against a good mage, they will know how to utilize their toolkit to counter yours. So, it's crucial that you know what the best counters are for this class and when you should use your abilities and what you should look out for when dealing with this class, which we will start to cover. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the guide, so let's dive into some of the abilities that will be best used to counter this class when you are fighting them. So first and foremost, Cloak of Shadows. This is going to be your main ability whenever you're countering any type of caster class. So Cloak of Shadows instantly removes all existing harmful spell effects and increases your chance to resist all spells by 90% for 5 seconds. Now, this does not remove anything that would prevent you from using Cloak of Shadows, but to my knowledge, mages don't do that. But Cloak of Shadows is going to be a great escape option, especially when you're trying to get out of things like Frost Nova. Now, Cloak of Shadows is great. Vanish also breaks things like Frost Nova, so Vanish is another great item in your toolkit. Allows the rogue to vanish from sight, entering an improved stealth mode for 10 seconds, and breaks movement impairing effects. So that right there is what breaks the Frost Nova. So this is another great option for dealing with mages. Another great item in your toolkit is Shadow Step. So Shadow Step is actually picked up from your talent tree in the subtlety tree. Shadow Step attempts to I'll read you the description. Attempts to step through the shadows and reappear behind your enemy and increasing your movement speed by 70% for 3 seconds. The damage of your next ability is increased by 20% and the threat is reduced by 50%. Now, what I like about Shadow Step is that it allows you to reappear behind the mage. Now, the ideal time to use Shadow Step is when mages use Blink. So that's going to be what you're looking out for when dealing with this class, is going to be their Blink ability. The Blink ability is what's going to make them have the ability to really gain distance on you. And that's the enemy of a rogue. You have to be in melee distance to be able to fight the mage. So ideally when you're fighting a mage, you're going to enter stealth. That's how you're going to engage them, right? You're going to engage stealth and you're going to pop pre-med, Shadow Step, ambush, kidney. You're going to start spamming backstabs. Usually when you pop your kidney, that's when they're going to end up blinking away. Now there's two things that you can do when they blink away. You can vanish and go in for a re-stealth and open up with a cheap shot or something else like that. Or if you wanted to do a different opener, you can pre-med and just go straight in for a cheap shot and start spamming backstab. And once they blink away, you can Shadow Step and then just keep going. The trick to dealing with a mage is closing the distance. They're going to be using abilities like Frost Nova and Blink to really close that, to really gain that distance. And your objective is to close that distance. And one of those big abilities that will allow you to do that is Shadow Step. So another ability that's going to really help you out is Sprint. So let's say that you get out of the Frost Nova and you need to get to the mage rather quickly. So you're going to end up using your Sprint ability. That's a given. Your Trinket is going to be a big thing as well, and also your Blind. Do not underestimate the power of Blind. You can use this to interrupt a burst spell cast when they're about to throw a Frostbolt at you when you're in a Frost Nova, and they're going to try and shatter you if they're a Frost Mage, or if they're going to try and do maybe a big Pyroblast or whatever if they're a Fire Mage, or they're about to drop an Arcane Blast on you. If they're trying to burst you down, you could always throw a Blind in there, especially if you don't have a Rupture up, and you could even get a Stealth reset on this sometimes. So again, Blind, really great ability. Preparation is going to be able to refresh your Vanish and your Shadow Step, so if you need to close the distance again for whatever reason, you could go ahead and throw a Prep in. It's a 5-minute cooldown. Use that to your discretion. Now, Shadow Dance. This is a big one. So Shadow Dance will allow you to keep a mage in place using your Cheap Shot. So let's say a mage gets away from you and they're continuously running away. Let's say you're slowed and you want to keep them in one place. You can always Shadow Step, pop a Cheap Shot, and start ambushing them right here, and then you can always follow up with a Kidney. So mages, as long as you close the distance, you will be able to get through them. So that's going to be kind of the best counters against this class. What you should watch out for when dealing with this class is, again, Blink, Frost Nova, and then, of course, Ice Block. When you're dealing with Ice Block, not really much you can do. They're invulnerable, so your best option is to either A, stay stuck to them and just wait for it to, you know, break. If they blink away, you Shadow Step again. Or you could back off and get a re-stealth. That's entirely up to you. I've seen rogues deal with mages Ice Block from just staying stuck to them and whacking at the block. I've seen them back off and stealth like I do. I've seen them straight up just vanish and walk away. I've seen many rogues deal with it in different ways. But my personal opinion is back off, get a re-stealth, and get your Shadow Step ready to maybe do another opening on an ambush. So again, just to summarize everything that I just said, okay? When you're dealing with a mage, the best abilities to counter them are your Cloak of Shadows, your Vanish, your Shadow Step, and then, like I said, Preparation if ever you need to get a refresh on your Vanish or even your Shadow Step. Your Trinket's always going to be there, and your Blind. When you're going in on a mage, ideally you're always going to be stealth. You're going to pre-med. You can open up with either a Cheap Shot if you want to save your Shadow Step for that blink, or you could just straight up go, if you know they're squishy, Shadow Step, ambush, and then open up with a Kidney. This Kidney, they're most likely going to go ahead and blink. You can sprint over to them and keep running after them. If they Frost Nova you, you can go ahead and Cloak of Shadows and keep going. Overall, your toolkit is very versatile for dealing with a mage. So, like I said in the beginning of the video, they're not much of a threat, they're easy to deal with. It's just understanding when to use those abilities and minimizing the damage that they can do to you in a burst, which is what Cloak of Shadows is really good for, which is what Blind is really good for, which is what Vanish is really good for, and overall what your toolkit is good for. You are equipped to deal with a mage. Even if you're undergeared, mages are the easiest thing to deal with. Now I'm confident you guys are able to deal with mages a lot more reliably. I gave you guys a couple tips from my experiences dealing with mages. Now, nothing is going to be better than actually fighting a mage and understanding what works for you. You may have a different playstyle, and that's okay. But I hope that I at least gave you guys some tips to properly deal with this class. Like I said, they're extremely easy to deal with, so don't hesitate to go after a mage in a fight. Be sure to understand what their toolkit is and how you can counter it with your own toolkit. Overall, I really enjoy fighting mages. It is fun to do, not only because you can wreck their faces, but because sometimes you get a really good player on the other end, and it is actually a very fulfilling fight, especially when you're both trying to outplay each other. I really hope you guys enjoyed the guide. Thank you for watching. If you made it to the end of the video, you're an absolute legend. If you guys have any tips or ideas for the rest of these guides, by all means, let me know in the comments. I am absolutely open to changing some of these sections. If there's anything you guys specifically want to know, I will let you know in the comments if I know it. And if you're looking for maybe more information in future guides on other classes, maybe other things you want me to cover, please let me know. This is the first guide of this series, and I would love to create a series that you guys are going to enjoy. So once again, like the video if you like it. If you dislike it, that's okay too. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. It really does help. And as always, everybody, thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.